Hi.
Barry from New Zealand, you're on.
That's a hard right turn. Hi.
It is a hard right turn.
Hey, it's so good to speak to you guys. I'm glad I managed to get back on. But I've got to start this with an apology to you, Shannon. I'm sorry. About 6 months ago, I rang up the Atheist Experience when you were on with Matt. And I didn't know who the hosts were. And so I was waiting a long time, and I asked who the hosts were, and they said, "Oh, Shannon and Matt." And I went, "Oh boy, oh boy!" And I started having all these scenarios in my head, which went along the lines of, I would just start the conversation saying, "Oh, hi, Shannon, how are you?" And you were going to say something like, "Well, that's all about how the synapses are with the neurons and vagina and blah, blah, blah." And then I fucking no. And I would start crying, and I'd give up, And so just before my call came on, I panicked and hung up on you guys.
Oh, no, I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad. I'll try not to talk about, but you want to talk about meditation.
Though that was an uncanny representation.
I don't know what you're talking about, neurons, vagina.
All right.
What's up?
What do you got for us, Barry? Hit me.
Listener.
Cool.
Okay. I wanted to talk about hypnotherapy and some of my own experiences, and just get your ideas about what you think of it. I had a nervous habit as a child of cracking my knuckles, and it was making a loud noise. It was used to annoy my mother, which is probably why I did it, because it was fun to annoy her, But as an adult, I thought, this is a bit antisocial. I need to do something about it. I don't know why, but I just hit upon the idea of hypnotherapy. So I went to see a guy who had all the certificates on the wall, and he said, "Well, I'm used to dealing with smokers primarily, but I think the dynamics of it would work the same as an addiction in your case." So I had the first session. It was really strange. He basically just sat me in a chair, and he talked me up my body, I suppose is the way I could put it. He said, your toes are very light, you can't feel them, your legs are very light, and so on. And it was a strange process, but the effect of it for me, subjectively, was my listening became incredibly acute, and all my surroundings I wasn't aware of them. It was just his voice. He brought me out of it eventually, talked me down my body to get out of it. And he said, "Well, you struggled a bit at first, but then you were okay." And I didn't notice any immediate changes, but by maybe the third session, and this was weekly, I had effectively beaten this thing. Now, this is something that it was chronic with me. I was just doing it all the time for 10, 15 years prior. And I'd beaten it. And I went back.
Why do you think that is?
Final session, and he made a bit of a mistake. Well, I'll just finish the story, because there might be something for you to consider. For the last session, he made what I think was the mistake of saying to me, "You realize with someone as chronic as yourself, the best you can expect is to control it, not beat it." And I think what that did subconsciously is it gave me a way back in. Oh, I don't have to stop it. Oh, well, that's all right. Then I'll just start again.
It also gives him an out, too, because if you don't beat it, he's not at fault. It's seed planting. It's priming.
Well, it had the effect at the end that I just went back to it again. And I thought, if only he'd shut his mouth up, I think I would have solved it,
Yeah, it's cognitive priming.
Anyway, what do you think?
Shannon, Shannon has a good take on this. We were chatting earlier before the show, so I'm gonna just let Shannon go.
Okay. So, just in general, what I was talking to MD Aware about before the show started was that there is some value in things like hypnotherapy, depending on what your ultimate goal is. So any sort of introspective process that focuses and centers you away from distraction, meditation is similar, in order to guide you into focusing on something that you want to deal with, take care of, or sort out without distraction, and keeps you centered on a problem that you want to solve. That's a good thing. And this is hypnosis, to my mind, is this form of kind of guided meditation, I think would be the best way to describe it. So when you have this sort of introspective focus on a goal that you're setting and somebody is guiding you through it, there's multiple things that happen. One, you have that introspection, which is great. 2, you've decided on a goal that you want to accomplish, which is great. 3, you've got an accountability metric, which is great. 4, you're removing distractions, and you said you had weekly sessions. That was great. So it sounds to me like you decided that you wanted to do something. You took a step towards doing it, or something that you thought would help. Part of that step was introspective and focused on a solution to the problem. You enacted that by changing your behaviors around the problem over a period of about, it sounds like a month, and 28 days is about a cycle to kick a habit. And then towards the end of it, you heard him give you permission to have an out. And that permission to have an out also kind of worked for him, because he's basically planting a seed that, hey, if this doesn't work, that's what you should expect anyway. Is that, like, because the habit was just so bad that, basically all of this was superfluous to begin with. So, I mean, there is some benefit with it. It depends on how it's couched. Like, I don't think that somebody can like hypnotize you into pretending you're a chicken and running across the stage and taking your shirt off and dancing and all of that stuff that you see people do when they're performing. But in a therapeutic session, it depends on how honest the person is, and all of those components, I think, factor into it significantly more than just, it's doing this sort of magic stuff with your brain that makes you just stop doing it magically. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also has to do with what the problem is, right? I was just looking up, because I saw your call, Barry, come up, and so I was looking at the evidence for hypnotherapy, and the most common application, like your hypnotherapist said, is for smoking cessation, and there's no good evidence to support that it works for that. And I would think that that's because there is a chemical element to a smoking addiction, right? A very, very profound and powerful one, and there probably isn't as big a chemical element to your knuckle cracking, right? Like, I'm sure that it's triggering some neurotransmitters, it's triggering some familiar pathways in your brain that maybe are comforting. But I think that it's sort of like comparing apples to oranges, right? So when you're assessing something like hypnotherapy, and really, honestly, any medical or health related therapy, you have to think about the therapy and also what it's being used for, right? In the same way that, like, antibiotics don't work to cure viruses, you can't use hypnotherapy to cure anything. It may be more effective for some things than others. And my limited read of the literature is that it's not particularly useful, except in cases where it's a non-chemical sort of behavioral aspect, and it's probably no better, like Shannon said, than just like meditation. What do you think?
Barry. Did we lose Barry again?
Barry's gone.
Oh, I love that topic, though. It's interesting. There's so many different, I don't know, people when it comes to therapy and counseling, so many people position themselves as these sort of mental health experts. I don't know. I just don't like it. I think that people need to be more informed on what type of things might be taking place. And I am not a therapist. Let me be clear. If you have a problem, do not come to me. I am an idiot and I'm not helpful. But like people need to know more about like what's actually going on and why those things may or may not be effective, because there's this sort of, I don't know what the, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not pseudo effect. There's an actual word that I can't think of. Placebo. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a sort of placebo effect. Okay. Yeah, it's a common word that anybody should be able to think of, but we've already established I'm an idiot. That people have is to, like, he was dedicated to finding a solution to a problem that he felt like he had and took steps towards doing it, and then focused on it, and it was starting, and then somebody gave him an escape hatch and he made the decision to take that out. Like, that makes the most sense to me. But yeah, anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I agree. So, I mean, it's a shame we lost Barry. But hey, Barry, if you're still out there, we're happy to talk to you again sometime.